So what is it? I'd love to hear all you guys' responses on this. What is it that draws you to pasta? Obviously, it's something that's fickle. It's difficult to master. Yet you guys have chased it. You haven't taken the easy road, and you've said we're going to pursue this thing. What is it about pasta that draws you to it? Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and tonight we have a panel here of esteemed gentlemen, and we are going to talk about one of God's greatest gifts to earth, and that is pasta. There is just something about the combination of noodles and sauce that just speaks to the soul, and very few people in Omaha are able to speak about it better than these guys. We've got Nick Strawhecker, Dario Schicke, and John Rea are my guests tonight. Can we give it up for them? Okay, so because we've got multiple voices from multiple restaurants here, I would love for each of you guys to introduce yourselves and maybe just give us a 1 to 2 minute summary of what your restaurant is and what makes you passionate about it. Nick, we'll start with you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. Nick Strawhecker from Dante in West Omaha. We do wood-fired Italian, including Neapolitan pizza. We make all our pasta in-house. We work with lots and lots of local producers, and we focus on Italian wine only.
Okay, Dario Schicke from Avoli Osteria in Dundee, previously of Dario's Brasserie also. Well, Avoli was created around pasta. The only reason Avoli exists is because of I had a huge urge to eat and serve pasta, and that's still what I'm doing every day. But
it's a pretty good life goal, I'd say.
Yeah. It was very challenging for me switching from a classic French cuisine to Italian, and I just couldn't be more excited to learn about Italian cuisine because it was very challenging from anything I learned how to cook in the past, and probably most difficult cuisine to execute correctly still is. And that I just love the challenge and that freshness and simplicity.
All right. John, who are you?
I am John Rea from Via Farina. I've been with Via for about 7.5 years. I feel like we opened as a kind of debating if we were a pizza place, a pasta place, or an Italian restaurant. And I think second location, and 8 years later, we're still trying to figure that out. We focus a lot of what we do around sourdough program. So all of our bread sourdough. We even have a sourdough pasta on the menu now. So kind of doubling down on that super trendy thing that happened during the Rona.
Dario, you said something really interesting in your intro there that I'd love to pick your brain more, and you guys can feel free to comment on it as well. But you said, you've got experience cooking in different cuisines, and you said pasta is the most difficult that you've accomplished, the most difficult thing that you've had to go after and figure out. What is it about pasta that makes it difficult?
You have to have a lot of attitude? No. I think because of simplicity and freshness, and that's probably hardest thing to do. I studied classic French cuisine, which you have a lot of techniques to hide behind, like braising, confit, I don't know, long cooking, and so you have a lot of time to perfect the dish. With pasta is seconds, and so I always like to think French cuisine is all about techniques, and Italian cuisine is all about ingredients. And there's really nothing to hide behind, or there's no room to fix mistakes. So you just don't make them.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So what is it? I'd love to hear all you guys' responses on this. What is it that draws you to pasta? Obviously, it's something that's fickle. It's difficult to master. Yet you guys have chased it. You haven't taken the easy road, and you've said, we're going to pursue this thing. What is it about pasta that draws you to it?
It's a very what Dario just said. I couldn't agree with more about. I mean, that's the reason I was a little bit behind, because I was terrified that the pasta was going to sit there and be overcooked, as opposed to being, nice and Dante with a nice little bite. So I was waiting for the last second. I'm like watching. I was like, okay. And then, so I couldn't agree more with Dario. The other thing is that in most of the world is this way, but definitely in Italy with how regional and town to town everything is. So it's like a never ending book of knowledge that if you're willing to go through and travel and read and learn about it, you will discover new dishes or new folds or new whatever. Pretty much constantly, there's a dish. I was like, whoa, I've never seen this before. That's very interesting.
What about you, John? What drew you into pasta?
I think for me, it's the combination of the finesse, the timing that goes into it, at the same time as the quickness of everything. You watch the time that gets spent into making a specific dough, a filling, a stuffed pasta, whatever it might be, and it's in the water for seconds, and it's on the plate seconds later, and it's gone seconds later. So I think it's one of those few foods that kind of encompasses that whole cycle quickly.
Well, you have very few ingredients you're working with, and flour and water and cheese, maybe a little butter, and then all of a sudden it's delicious. And you just can get enough of it. And I think it's that magic. It happens with those few ingredients that just keeps coming back every time. I told you earlier, I'm just never get tired of tasting it every day. So I don't know, carbs maybe? I don't know.
Carbs are awesome in any form, but especially in noodle form.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, we figured it out. Yeah.
I mean, Dario, I remember I had you on the podcast a couple of years ago, and you told me, you had Dario's Brasserie open. It was a beloved restaurant, and you went to Italy, and you traveled around, and you staged at restaurants because you were like, I want to figure this pasta thing out. I need this. Yeah. What, Nick, I know you've basically got a second citizenship in Italy. You're there so often. What is it about traveling and actually being in Italy and getting to experience the food there that furthers that pasta passion?
Well, you got to go to the source, where everything happens. And I think which is great to learn, Italian food in Italy, and makes us even more proud of what we do here, like, everybody, because in all the travels I've done, I think every single pasta or food we make is equally comparable, but it's just because you get a whole package. You get, from a wine country to raw ingredients, and being in their climate and their air really stimulates all your senses. But I have to say, I almost like Italian restaurants better in New York than in Italy, because I spend a lot time in New York. I live there, and I also work there. It's just that that competition and pressure we feel in this country to be better, to do more, to accomplish more, because I think we work really hard here because we have huge competition. That I worked in from Michelin stars Italian restaurants to 16-seat Italian restaurants in New York, and I was extremely impressed of not Italian authentic cuisine, but what people are able to accomplish with ingredients we get here, incorporating in Italian techniques and dishes, and that's kind of toss-up for me almost.
Interesting.
There'd be an argument too that, like, if you go to Japan, that the Italian food in Japan is better than in Italy, which is, I mean, because the Japanese are so, if you have, sushi, it's just, okay, make this piece of tuna as delicious as you can possibly make it with 3 ingredients, and it's very similar to the idea of pasta, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. What you're saying with that, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's also very. I mean, it's also subjective. And it just depends on where. But it's kind of wild. I haven't looked at it like that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Italian chefs who moved to this country, and I just love also idea creating cuisine based on overseas tradition and techniques, but incorporating ingredients where you live. And I think that's something special too.
So, can you dig into that a little bit more? Like, what is the biggest difference you see, Dario, between the Italian restaurants that you worked at in New York or that you ate at in New York and the ones in Italy? You mentioned competition. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Are things just more easygoing in Italy and more cutthroat over here, or what did you mean exactly?
Well, I'm talking about like specifically New York. Like hours you have to operate to survive. It's unmatched. You have to start a.m. and finish 2 a.m. service, and I'm just intrigued with that. Right now at Avoli, we work only 5 days, 5 dinners. That's all we can afford with the staff we have. But we have luxury to do that. Like if you're in New York with those prices and expenses, you have to be open all day and produce that consistency on that level for that much every day. For me personally, that's huge accomplishment. Rather than being open just 5 nights, few hours a week, where you can really perfect your dishes that you're just doing it all day and all night long, and on that level, and not sacrificing any product or execution of your dishes.
So really interesting
that's me personally, yeah.
Italy, for the most part, is the same way
Yeah.
as you operate as well. It's 5 days. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a lunch service.
Maybe.
If it's a hotel, that's a whole different ball of wax. Yeah. I think the difference with your point with stateside Italian as opposed to Italian eating in Italy is it's hyper local for the most part. Unless you're in Rome or in Venice, which it's still you'll find hyper Roman food, but in the small towns like there's a dish that I had in April that in Gavi, a very, very tiny town, and I heard I'm eating. I'm at this winemaker's house. We're having lunch, and it's some pasta. And I wish I was trying to find my phone because I wanted to talk about it because it was awesome. But I could not find it, and I cannot remember the pasta. But they came out with a bottle of Gavi and then just poured lukewarm white wine on the pasta. And Gavi is only made in a very small little area in Piedmont, and there's nothing more hyper local than that. And I think that's what I love most about it, is the never-ending journey of, like I was talking about earlier, I was like, I'm 45 years old. I've been to this region quite a few times. Never even read about this or whatever. Yeah. It's just a never-ending journey.
Isn't that what they say? There's really no Italian cuisine. There's just a regional cuisine.
Absolutely.
Really. So there's, who knows how many micro cuisines
100%.
all over the place. Yeah. Influenced by different,
And then at Sicily and, Sardinia.
Well, yes, you have Sardinia, which has, a Morocco-inspired pasta, and then you have, Dolomiti with Germanic knödels and spätzles. Yeah, so that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
So speaking of the different regions, is there a region that you guys draw specific inspiration from, or do you try and pull from multiple regions at your restaurants?
So for me, I've never been to Italy. So I'm actually sitting here and enjoying soaking up this conversation right now. We have a lot of fun doing our homework into a lot of traditional regional cuisine, but then figuring out if there's a way, and if there is, what's the best way to go to use a domestic product or a local product to accomplish what it is we think that they are trying to accomplish as well. For example, like an amatriciana. Guanciale is kind of the king of the show on that specific pasta. So if we can get our guanciale from Tony and Lincoln, that's a way that we like to kind of bridge that gap and use the local ingredients for that. But I'm kind of enjoying the ignorance of never been to Italy. Of course, I want to go, but I still love having those almost daily aha moments where it's like, oh, got it. I hope I got it, but someday I'll find out when I get over there.
I mean, Emilia Romagna is they would say the mecca of pasta. And I mean, I've eaten super well there. They'd say Piedmont is the best wine, but I think it's subjective too. You know what I mean? Like
I'm Piedmontese, 100%.
For everything cuisine.
Cuisine in general, is just my cup of tea. It's very continental. It's food of the mountain. There's a lot game, a lot braising, a lot heavier ragouts. That's closer to my style. I love eating fresh southern Italian pasta, but personally, I like preparing mountainous pasta.
John, I got to ask you about the Pasta Lab. So, for anyone who's unaware, Via Farina has 2 locations. The first location's been open for several years. Second location out in West Omaha just opened, like a month ago? Yeah. And it is just a beautiful space, but there is a room dedicated just to pasta, and it's just glass walls. So you can look in there and you can watch chefs forming the pasta and everything. What goes on in that space? And as you were building out this restaurant, what made you say, I want there to be a dedicated space just for pasta, and not only just for pasta, but I want people to be able to see in and see what's happening?
I think right now, from what I can tell, Italian food, specifically pizza and pasta, are having their moment, maybe more so than they have in years past. Nick can probably speak on that a little bit better than I can. But from where I'm at, my view right now is a great time for it. And Evan Funky has been all over TV, books and shows, and when you see things, you're like, I want that, and you constantly do that. And that was probably the one thing that we had seen that was like, we got to have that. That's got to be a part of what we're doing, but we have to do it in a fun way. We still have a certain vibe at the restaurant when you come in at night and the music's up and the lights are down and it's, Aperol spritzes everywhere and there's pizzas and pastas flying all over the room. So we wanted to set it up in a way that's presented in a little more of a fun way. It is glassed in. So we've got, from the beginning of the day, we're baking our bread in there every day. Then it moves into some more of the monotonous work in the middle of the day, making pizza dough, extruding pastas, things like that. And then at nighttime, when the lights come down a little bit more, we have somebody usually in there hand rolling pastas, cutting pastas, stuffing pastas, things like that. And then with the glass aspect, one of my favorite aspects is when kids come in and kids get very wide-eyed and they see people making pasta, then we just hand them an expo marker and we're like, tap on the glass, play tic-tac-toe with that guy back there. And our pastiolos will stop what they're doing and play a game of tic-tac-toe with the kids. And for me, it's a way to educate. It's a way to have fun. It's a way to show off the craft that is making pasta and making bread.
Okay, Nick, John just mentioned he feels like pizza and pasta are having a moment right now. Your restaurant also serves both of those. Thoughts on that?
I think he's absolutely right, but I also think that I think pizza and pasta will always have a moment, just because it's so absolutely beautiful and evolving. Like Neapolitan pizza, for example, it's been around. It's the first pizza, call it since 1890 in Italy, 1870, whatever. Came to the States. Really came to the States post World War II due to American GIs. And so, to Dario's point, talking about using what you have to prepare food in 1950. Wherever in the United States, there was no grana padano. There's no
mortadella.
There's no mortadella. There's no. So it's like, all right, let's figure out what we have and prepare it that way. I think food is going to continue to evolve, and Detroit pizza is hot in Omaha right now and has been in the States for around for a couple of years. I think it's going to be ebbs and flows of different types of things. I think, and you mentioned Funky, and and his book is fabulous. But he made the critical error in my view of saying how he makes the best pasta in the United States, period. And he doesn't, he said that on the Joe Rogan podcast, if you heard that. And he's like, and he said that, and he's like, and I was like, I don't know, I've had some pretty good pasta in the United States. Whether in Des Moines or Omaha or Cleveland, doesn't have to be in New York City, Oklahoma City, could be in the Midwest. I think there's great food all over the world anymore, because we can get any ingredient we want. I had a friend in town from New Jersey this past weekend, and I was like, hey, we're going to go eat some fish. And he's like, I'm not eating fish in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm like, dude, it's as fresh as you're getting in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So It's like, we can get anything, which is pretty awesome.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? We can get anything. I mean, we can get anything we want pretty much in the world.
So no
FedEx
excuses. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, we've mentioned Evan Funke a couple different times. He is a Los Angeles-based chef, kind of the modern-day king of pasta, I would say, in America. He's probably
in his view.
Yeah, well, yes. I would say he's probably the most well-known pasta chef in America at the moment. Maybe that's debatable or not, but whatever. That's who he is. He is a big personality. We can say that much. I'm so curious. You guys mentioned you can get a lot of ingredients shipped in, but there is something about having that. I know your restaurants focus on hyper-local, very seasonal ingredients, and that can be a challenge here in Omaha. Like, you're not going to get super fresh tomatoes right now, and tomatoes are a huge, ingredient in a lot of pasta sauces and things. For you guys, whether you're traveling to Italy or you're doing research and you're getting inspired by these recipes and you're seeing the things that these Italian restaurants are doing with pasta, what is it like for you? I don't know if the word is frustrating or invigorating or what that emotion is, but to try and recreate what they are making, but doing it without their ingredients. You have to adapt and use what you have available to you. What is that like?
I think it's awesome. I think it's I think that's what keeps you going every day. I think it's when you go to a Mark Vetri restaurant or something to that effect, and you like, God, how did he do that? But you're also, I think the one handicap in there is that you're constantly seeing things that you also don't know how. You don't know when. You don't know how to accomplish a certain thing. But I think that's what kind of keeps everybody going. That's why I think Omaha's dining scene is in the situation that it's in right now, which I think is a great situation.
Well, I think, again, pasta is very tricky for a food itself, but also you have to stay true to tradition also, because you cannot really reinvent the wheel. We try to, I'm a big fan of tradition, but also we like to invent and experiment, but it's very, very challenging trying to stay true to tradition, but also putting our personal touches or our local touches. And I think pasta is probably, greatest example how not to overdo it, how not overcomplicate it, because we all tend to overthink or try too hard. And then with pasta was biggest lesson to me, step back. Just do it the way it's supposed to be done, and works every time. It's like when you get most inspired, you plate your pasta dish, and then take 4 things off. Yeah, it's like, doesn't need that. No, not necessary. It'd be delicious. I was in Croatia this summer, and when they serve their pasta, they have their own versions of pasta dishes. They encourage you to try dish before you add cheese to it.
That's like hypocrisy in America.
Yeah, so it's like, first try it and you decide if needs it or not. And first thing is, for me, I'll just sprinkle all the cheese, all you can before it goes out. And I'm like, oh, that's different. They tell you, you know what, maybe it's good enough on its own before you put cheese on it. I mean, it's not, but it's fine.
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I wish we had 3 hours to talk about it. I mean, there's so many, because there's like so much new. Like, first off, Vetri, a huge fan of Vetri. I mean, that man's been at it for so long. I mean, he's like, in my opinion, top 5 Italian American chef. I mean, his restaurants are amazing.
In Philadelphia.
He's in Philly, and he has a place in
He's got a
Vegas
couple
too,
in Vegas now, yeah.
which are pretty great. I've been to both, and they're both. I mean, usually a lot of times in Vegas it doesn't work, but he made it work.
It works real well.
So, and then Dario about the cheese. Like, I mean, there's certain dishes in Italy that, it's sacrilege to put cheese on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they'll like aglio olio.
Yeah.
Our family pasta, we call it hot pasta, which is aglio olio means garlic and oil, right? And it's an omnipresent dish. There's certain dishes in Italy, however, that you'll find all over the place. Pasta con vongole, aglio olio. There's several. And if you are in Italia and you want cheese on it, they laugh at you. I mean, it depends where they're like, no, you can't. It's objectively better with cheese. Like, I don't know why it's so much better with cheese, and then cheese on fish, forget about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no cheese on fish.
No.
But Dan, you mentioned about, like, is it frustrating with the lack of ingredient in Nebraska? Like, for me, no, not at all, because it keeps it way more interesting. If we're in Southern California, we could have tomatoes all the time. It'd be way easier. Like, I mean, could you imagine, or like they have or San Francisco, I mean, like, way easier because there's stuff everywhere. Like, the guy in the kitchen, guys get sick of stuff. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, really, we're going to do more, insert really any seasonal dish that we do. And it's just kind of fun when it's over, and then it's really fun to come back to it. It's really fun to come back to asparagus or nettles or whatever in the springtime, tomatoes in the summer, et cetera, et cetera. So I think yes, it's more challenging, but when you have experience and you can, go back to the Rolodex of ideas or whatever, try something new or open a book or. So I think it's better.
Well, that's why I asked whether it was challenging or invigorating, and I think both of those terms probably apply at some point, because I think, it's what you just said. Like, yes, if you have the ingredients available to you all the time, it's easier.
100%.
But if you're constantly being challenged and you have to say, well, we're not getting super fresh tomatoes, but nettles are on the menu now, or asparagus is on the menu now, what can we do with that? That gets the creative juices continually flowing in your brain. So you're not just churning out the same thing all the time, but and all you guys do it. You rewrite your menus, at least seasonally, if not. I mean, you guys are putting new dishes on just about every week, I feel like, if not more so.
We try to. I mean, it's like, okay, you have sunchokes. Have fun with it. You know what I mean? Like, which is awesome. I mean, we're always trying to change, always trying to do different things, or, a lot of it's, it's just, here's what we have available. Here's what we feel like doing. And then, I had this dish there, or Chef Seth, who you've met many times, and you guys know probably, he's had this dish there, or I read this in a book. The reading of books, and we've talked about this before. Like, it's like not using Instagram as inspiration. Use experience and books as inspiration. Here's this sauce out of whatever book from 15 years ago from Mark Vetri. Oh, that looks awesome. Oh, let's try that sauce, but apply it this way and that way and the other way. That's where, for me and at Dante, that's where creativity comes from, I suppose.
Okay.
That and here's what you got. Good luck.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Let's talk about dough, because obviously you can't have great pasta without great dough. But it's a finicky thing, and it's something that you have to experiment with. And I mean, John, you even talked about doing a sourdough dough. I hadn't seen that on the menu. That's super interesting. When you guys developed your original dough recipe, like, I'm gonna get the memory turning a little bit. What was that process like?
For me, so we use 2 types of flour, 00 and semolina. So was really, for me, was finding perfect. We use both of them in our pasta, because they react different, and they create different results on a pasta. So 00 is finely grind pasta, and molecules are broken so small that when you hydrate them, they grab each other so tight that you can roll that dough so thin and still have that beautiful texture when you eat, and gives you ability to let it rest and just do whatever you choose with it. But then also we added also semolina, and now we combine both of those for just for different mouthfeel. And once we got it, we kind of, okay, we like this final product.
I mean, it depends on the application, on which, to Dario's point. I mean, it's like if you're, so we fold pasta, so that's going to be a fresh pasta. That's going to be 00, sometimes semolina and yolks, and then we cut pasta, which is going to be the same as that's going to be a fresh pasta. Then we extrude pasta, which is for us is only semolina because you need something that you work it, and high gluten content. So extruded is, say, a spaghetti or rigatoni or fusilli. So tonight I brought fusilli and I brought rigatoni. That was extruded. Pappardelle is a cut pasta with yolk and 00. We have 4 or 5 different main pastas that we use depending on the application.
What about you, John?
And for us, we've got 4 different doughs right now that we have in play at all times. So we do our extruded pasta, like you said, is just semolina water. We do a whole egg dough that we use for some of our stuffed pastas. We have an egg yolk dough that we use for some of our hand-cut pastas. And then, like I said, we do our sourdough pasta that we just started doing recently. That's what we do a hand-cut tagliatelle with for kind of our, I don't know, I think maybe I was having too much fun with it, maybe a little bit, but it was, I knew that we were going to get the request for fettuccine Alfredo when we opened up. I knew it was coming. And not to talk down on some of these dishes, that's just not what we do in the sense of the Americanized version of Alfredo, the white gravy that people put on pasta. However, a traditional Alfredo being good Parmesan, good butter, good pasta, that's what we're doing. So if you ask for it, we actually have it. It's not going to be probably what you're expecting, but we're hoping that it elevates your experience. So I mean, to both those guys' points, the application depends on which pasta we're going to make at that point.
And specifically for you guys, I know that they're vastly different, but I would love to just get on your opinions on how they vary. Pizza and pasta dough, how different are they?
Night and day.
Couldn't be more different. I mean, other than they use this flour, water. I mean, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically flour, water, and gluten structure is basically where the comparisons stop, pretty much.
But it's a totally different kind of process. Yeah. There's no egg at least on our pizza dough. Now, like semolina is just flour. It's just semolina and water for extruded, like we talked about. Totally different. We don't rest it takes 3 days to make our dough for pizza. For pasta, it takes, we'll rest the dough if we're making it fresh for, 90 minutes, 2 hours, and then we'll fold it and it'll be completely ready. Now, at the same time, a semolina or extruded pasta, that needs a day to cure. You can cook it immediately, but it's going to be kind of gummy. But if you cure it for a day or 2 days is even better. But then on the 3rd day, then it starts to get brittle and break apart. So it's like there's a happy medium with all of it. But pasta dough gets a little bit better after day 4 for us, it degrades, right?
Sure.
It starts to kind of fall apart. It just falls apart. But it's two different deals as far as I'm concerned.
So I know you guys at your restaurants all serve fresh pasta. We've talked about that. Very important with just the mouthfeel, noodle structure, everything. Is there a time and a place for dried pasta?
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
What is that? First of all, for anyone in the crowd, what are the main differences between fresh and dried pasta, and when are good times to employ dried pasta?
I think dried pasta is... I think you could make the argument dried pasta is better.
Totally.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't think dried pasta is because everybody buys dried pasta for $1 a box at the store. I don't think dried pasta is a shortcut. It's actually a way of not only preservation, but it gives you a completely different tooth to it when you bite it.
So I think you read your ingredients. If pasta is made out of semolina dough and bronze dye extruded, that there's really no difference. I'm gonna break it out to you that white bolognese was served with dry pasta today.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't agree more. It just depends on which one. Like the Checo is my favorite. the blue box, everybody's seen it. They have it at Hy-Vee. The Checo, like that is all made in Abruzzo, which is a region on the East Coast, Central East Coast. I've been to the factory. It's it's amazing. The water comes from the streams. It's the bigger than like 5 Cabela's. It's the craziest thing. It's an amazing product. Berea, that's fine. That's all made in New Jersey. At least it was. Or I think it just depends on which one you buy, but I couldn't agree more. I mean,
If
depends on the application.
If on a box says 2 ingredients and bronze extruded, it's a go.
Okay.
There's no fillers, there's no proteins, there's no starches, glutens, I don't know. If there's a semolina, water, bronze extruded, it's a go. 100% every time.
And on that note, that's one of the few ingredients I think you find at the store that is so worth paying up for because it's already inherently cheap. It's like when we use good quality pork in a restaurant, it's like, sure, you could save money with commodity pork, but why? Like pork is already inherently cheap. Just get the good stuff.
Real good point. Yeah, it's like 15 cents more or whatever for like some, as opposed to the Albertsons brand or whatever,
Yeah, it costs you an extra $1 to feed 4 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think is a very important point, which would be kind of fun to go down of like, what is the purpose of pasta? Like, why did they, I was kind of
Okay, go for it. What's the purpose of pasta? Let's go.
Okay, so, and I'm just curious okay, you have a family of 4 and you have 10 ounces of beef or 5 ounces of beef, and you get some carrots and you get some onions, and and then you have pasta. You can feed a family with a pound of pasta and 8 ounces of beef. And then you make a ragu, and everybody's full and everybody goes to bed happy. But if you have 8 ounces of beef for 4 people, that's here you go, 2-3 ounces of beef. I think, and that's the purpose. I mean, like, and you can go culture to culture all over the world. There's dumplings and there's, pasta or noodles and all over the place. And it's all because of that. You're able to feed.
You're able to stretch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Most things in cuisine are due to scarcity, are due to preservation. We have all this wheat. What the heck are we going to do with all this wheat? We made all the bread. So let's try something else. Let's make pasta, And on another note, I've driven all over Italy. There's no wheat fields in Italy, really, which is really strange. You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of farms, obviously olives and grapes, and I mean you go to Sicily, it's crazy. It's all farms everywhere. But like there'll be like oh wow, there's wheat. So it's like, and I'm sure at one time it was lots and lots of wheat, but not anymore. It's all from here. It's from the United States, and you know what I mean, like, or Ukraine, or I mean there's Eastern Bloc countries, but
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Well, I think, when you make flour, you can just preserve it for a whole year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you have your harvest, you can eat it all year. And again, you can use it in a million different applications. In mine, just to eat more cheese. Vessel to put more cheese on it.
Yeah.
Nobody try and take Dario's cheese away from him. He'll come after you.
And butter.
Yeah, and butter.
So I'm really interested in the science behind pairing noodles and sauce, because there are particular sauces and proteins that pair better with a specific type of noodle, whether that's a filled pasta or an extruded pasta or a long, spaghetti or fettuccine, whatever it might be. Take us inside as you guys are creating new dishes, and you say, okay, we've got rigatoni or we've got fusilli, whatever the pasta might be. How do you decide what you want to pair it with? Or do you start the other way and make a sauce and say, what pasta does this go with? Just take me inside that process, because I'm fascinated by it.
I think that goes both ways. You can start on either end of that spectrum.
I think first starts, do you put oil in your water or not when you boil the pasta?
Put oil in your water. I've never heard this. Everyone says salt it like crazy, but I've never heard the oil thing.
Yeah, people put olive oil in their water.
You put oil in your water?
I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see where you're going there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
So,
What's the same thing with? Do you shock your pasta? At it's noon and you're making all your pasta for the day and shock and put baggies. We do not. And I'm sure you don't either. Yeah. But my first job, 1995 or whatever, that's what we did.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's why we do what we do. So people don't have to eat pasta like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to answer your question, it's very, gets very technical and not so much. There's a lot, I think, just when when you're talking about sauce and the noodles, when you say your pasta is extruded with the bronze die, we use that soft bronze, not a Teflon or a stainless steel a die to extrude pasta, because bronze creates like micro ridges on the noodles itself, and when you cook that pasta, everything kind of expands and multiplies, so they really grab and hold that sauce. You cannot see it, but they're there. So when you want to have earthy, strong noodles with a big flavor, you want that pasta and sauce to cling together. So you get with each mouthfeel, you get that ragu, you get that fat from that meat with each noodle, and you want to stir your noodle. If you have a sauce which is butter based and the cheese based, you don't want to have mouthfeel of butter and cheese. So you want a little looser pasta, like little long noodles that you can control when you throw them, how much sauce actually you absorb with your noodles. That's why they use that spoon and fork, see how much sauce you can grab with that. So, I think everything is for a reason, but also I think it's more like really how you like it and what you like and personal preference.
That was a great description.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can get technical, but I'm not going to. Yeah.
I mean, feel free to get as technical as you want. We're here
Yeah.
for technical.
Yeah, because it's in Italy they've done it for a million years, and they're gonna tell you how to eat which pasta, how to, which sauce to use with each pasta. Rigatoni, it's thick noodle. You want a big sauce, you want a bold sauce, you want that sauce to get inside rigatoni. That's why it's built as it is, because sauce and the heat get captured in those noodles, so continues to improve while you're eating your dish. Then you have our carbonara, which is hard as it gets dish to make, and that's perfect example. You have that egg emulsion with a cheese, and you twirl those noodles and getting all that egg mixture with each noodle, but you're using long noodle actually, because way coats your mouth, that fat from that sauce and how that pasta gets broken down.
And not a fresh pasta with carbonara, for example. You're going to use a box of pasta from the store or an extruded pasta.
Yeah,
because it's going to adhere better to the pasta itself. But if you use like tagliatelle, like fresh, it's just not going to work. And if Italian comes into your joint, then they're going to slap you across the face. Hey,
Well, the point of using dry pasta is like you cook it for much longer, so you get a lot more starch in your cooking water, which you also utilize in all of your sauces. Like if you have a pasta which cooks only for 30 seconds, which is extremely fresh, like your cooking water is really useless. But if you use pasta which needs to cook for 9-12 minutes, you get that beautiful starchy water that you can use for every sauce you're serving it with. So that's advantage of dry pasta too.
You know what he means? What he means by that? So it's like,
Tell me.
So
Like when you make
every pasta
Act
that
like
we
I know
have,
nothing. Tell me.
Okay, so let's use bolognese for an example. So like, you have a saute pan, you have the ragu in the pan, you're adding X, Y, and Z to the dish. No matter what, at every single bolognese at Dante, we are grabbing a ladle of pasta water that we cooked the pasta in and maybe had been for however many hours, and then adding a little bit to it to get it just to that perfect little bit of beauty, and it's holding the pasta. It's kind of glazed.
It adds a little bit extra starch because the pasta gives some starch to the water, and then you're taking it back and introducing it, right?
It does that, and also like in a restaurant setting. So let's say it's 8:00 on a Saturday night. It's very, very busy, and you're plating 6 bolognese, and you have a big saute pan of a bunch of pasta. It's gonna, every second that goes by, the pasta is going to suck up the water a little bit. And even after a minute, it's not going to be quite right. So you add a little bit of water and then plate it and then out the door. So the water is your friend. Big time.
Yeah.
Water's your friend. Cheese is your friend. Butter's your friend. These are
But
the things
olive
that we're
oil,
learning.
acid. I mean, like
When that
Vinegar.
starchy water too. I mean, if you make like a box of macaroni and cheese at home, and you get that done cooking that pasta, and you go to strain it out, all that cloudy water,
it's perfect.
save it for a
You
minute.
want it.
Save it. If you're making pasta in the next couple days, and you're not going to get as much starch out of it, save it. Use it.
Do you season? Let's say, I mean, macaroni and cheese is. I mean, like, do you season the water when you're making macaroni and cheese at home?
Macaroni and cheese, yes.
Like, I mean, even Kraft.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't know. Never done it.
Okay, I want to give some tips to the good people here. Then maybe seasoning the macaroni and cheese water is a good tip to start with. But for people who are trying to make pasta at home, what are some tips for the home cooks here?
Start there. Start with the pasta. Let's start with the pasta water.
Start with pasta water.
It should taste almost like the sea, but if your water, you have to keep on tasting your water because it reduces down and it becomes too salty, and then that's a problem. Then everything tastes like salt. So it's like all night long we're tasting our pasta water in on our pasta cooker. These guys are doing the same thing, so the water has to be boiling. The water has to be seasoned. Has to be a lot of water. If you're cooking Kraft macaroni and cheese at home, don't use a little tiny saucepan. Use you need to cook it in a lot of water. I'll do the water and then Dario does next.
So I think best advice is let us do the job. Just come out.
Just pay us.
Yeah. Save yourself. Yeah. Whatever that is. Yeah. We'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, John, what do you got? Do you have a tip, or should people just come in and pay you?
I mean, I don't disagree with that. Fresh cracked black pepper and knowing how to use butter properly. I think those are probably the things that we see, especially with the younger cooks that come in. As soon as you learn how to use pasta water correctly, and then you learn how to use the butter correctly, it changes how you cook.
What's the key to using? I know it's more nuanced than just one or two sentences, but like, what's the key to using butter correctly?
Good quality butter, at room temp, so that it melts a little bit quicker. Get it off your heat. You don't want your pot to be, or your pan of pasta, or anything else that you're mounting with butter for that matter, to get too hot at that point. At that point, it should start coming down in temperature. So
You just use it
it's
at
emulsifying,
the
it's
end.
glazing.
You don't really cook your butter. You just finish with your room temperature butter, what John said. And that's when you get that sheen and that fresh glaze look.
Nice.
It's like it's an unstable emulsification, which means like it's not homogeneous, but it's almost homogeneous. With the butter is almost homogeneous. So it's like, let's say you have ragu in a saute pan. Let's say you have not ragu out of the jar, which is something else I wanted to talk about. How Americans like ragu and prego just take these beautiful words and just destroy it. But that's another thing. You stabilize it for a little bit, like right at the, like you have ragu in a saute pan, then you add your pasta, then you add your maybe butter and a punch of vinegar and a punch of olive oil, toss, plate, done. Not ragu in the pan, butter melt down, and then add pasta.
Okay.
Makes
Well,
sense?
now that you've destroyed any hope that this podcast will be sponsored by ragu or prego,
Brought to you by Kraft.
yeah, Kraft, yeah, let's go. We
Big
can
money.
talk. But I mean, what do you want to go on a rant about that, or
Sure.
I mean, open floor. The ball's yours.
It's really too bad. I think that like you go to Hy-Vee and we just like to destroy things sometimes. Like I love our country so much; it's amazing. But like, it's right. I don't know. It's incorrect. Like it's not. First off, ragu is not tomato sauce.
But it's what we
Ragu is a meat sauce. That's not what it is. And
Well, let's skip ragu now. Let's
Prego?
No. We need to stop overcooking pasta
there you go.
before we even get to ragu.
Yeah.
Pasta is. I know when we open Avoli, and I knew that's going to be biggest challenge I'm going to face, that our pasta is not going to be cooked enough and that portions are going to be too small. I knew that,
No
12
breadsticks
years
with
ago.
that?
No breadsticks. And I was prepared because I knew that every night few pastas will come back, being undercooked, which is not. So we are not here to educate our customers. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to please you while I educate you. So that was the really biggest challenge. People don't eat properly cooked pasta in general at home. There's all the sayings, it doesn't stick on a wall. I don't know. I don't really believe in any of that, but I just need to address that if you use high quality ingredients like flour, eggs, treat it like any good ingredients. Do not overcook your fresh fish. Do not overcook your steak. Do not overcook your scallops. Do not overcook your pasta either, because it is made out of good, wholesome ingredients which are actually good for you. If you overcook, starch turns into sugar, and that's not good for you, literally. We have a problem with eating overcooked pasta and not feeling good. So I think actually beneficially is good for you to eat properly cooked pasta, not just for flavor and experience, but also for a health point of view. Because eating overcooked pasta is essentially eating spoonfuls of sugar.
Slash is just wrong. Slash is just wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's just bad. It doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
It's just like it should have a little bit of a bite.
So yeah, I think once we get to properly cooked pasta, then field is endless. You can do whatever you want with it. But that main ingredients, the star of the dish, needs to be treated properly, and that's how you have good base. And then, whatever you choose, whichever sauce or you finish, is going to be easier. But if your pasta is overcooked, you can't really fix it. Yeah. It's downhill from there. So.
John, did you come with any pre-prepared rants that you need to get off your chest?
How much time
this is a safe space.
Similarly to the overcooking pasta, I feel like the one thing that we've never really been able to get over is there's this gap between Italian food and Italian American food. And I think there's a time and a place for everything. But it becomes tough to do things like a true Alfredo because it's been so bastardized for so long that people are just not going to be okay with that. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how I think we just continue to keep educating. And sometimes just looking in the mirror and just being like, that just wasn't the right place at the right time. For example, like, I know Nick will run, stuffed pastas on brodo. We have tried it a dozen times over. It does not go over.
It's like my favorite dish ever. I totally agree.
Does not sell. Yeah. There's just aspects like that you're just like, they're beautiful. I mean, but I think it's also why we tell our crew that there's some dishes you do for you. It's not always for the customer. Most of the time it is, but sometimes you got to do a dish for you. And that'd be one.
Yeah, man. Sure. Yeah, I don't get why that doesn't. I hate it's like, hey, let's try and they're like, I don't sell, but okay, it's literally my favorite. I mean, tortellini brodo is like my favorite. I mean, it's like Italian chicken soup for the soul.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's what it is, right? And it's so wonderful.
You have that warm broth, and that filling is so creamy, it just melts in your mouth, becomes part of that soup, and yeah.
But it's like making a consomme or making a soup. It's like the person who made it is going to always enjoy that so much more than the person that's getting it served to them.
You're probably right. Right, that's good way to put it.
I'll eat it, even if I didn't make it. Yeah, I love it.
Same.
Okay, I got a couple quick hitters for you guys before we get out of here. So let's try and go 10 words or less on each of these. Favorite noodle to eat, not cook, to eat.
Tyrene.
To eat.
I don't think I can single out one.
Okay, can you give me 2 or 3?
I do love tahine. It's probably in top 3 for many reasons. And also I love tubular pastas like rigatoni and penne is just comfort food to me because of that totally different mouthfeel, totally different applications. And then stuffed pasta ravioli, it's again on a section on its own. So kind of depends, what's your favorite beer? One in my hand? I don't know. Yeah.
I guess if there was a gun to my head, I would say like Agnolotti del Plin, like just little beautiful Piemontese ravioli. But it just depends on the application. To both the gents,
Yeah.
I think
And if it's a dried pasta,
But if we
I'm
talk
a
about
sucker
dishes,
for
like-
angel hair. If it's a dried pasta,
nice
Okay. Ricotta or potato gnocchi?
potato.
potato.
But I like both.
Oh, potato, yeah.
Okay. And this is the last question I got here. This has been a hot debate in the Hurrdat offices recently. Is mac and cheese a pasta?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Casserole, I don't know.
it's also, it's.
But you shouldn't call it a pasta. Like it is, but you wouldn't call a cheeseburger a sandwich.
But see, this is the debate that we've been having, and I don't know where I fall on it because I talk myself into both sides of the argument. Like,
Well, it is. Just don't call it that.
I think it's semantics. It's all semantics. It's like fusilli with Parmigiano fonduta was the
it's
same
essentially
as
mac and cheese. Yeah.
it could. Yeah, I think it's just and now a Kraft tiny little yada yada, like that's not pasta, like with powdered. Even though I love it, but it's not. I mean, but I think you could call it something else and make it beautiful and delicious, and it's essentially the same idea.
Okay. I'm no closer to having my answer now than I was.
I'll sit this one out.
I think that's a perfect night or perfect note to end the night on.
I'm out. Yeah.
You guys have been absolutely wonderful. I wish that we could talk for hours and hours, but I have to be respectful of your time, and I thank you so much for coming out and just educating us, teaching
thanks
us
for having
about
us.
salting water and butter and dried pasta and mac and cheese. I had no idea we'd have so much craft discussion tonight, but here we are. Can we just give these guys a round of applause and thank them?
Good to see you guys.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us. Okay, so that is the end of the podcast portion of the night, but now you guys get to be the star. So Jocelyn, awesome Jocelyn here, who's producing tonight, she has a microphone. If you have a question for these gentlemen, raise your hand. Jocelyn will come over with the mic and give you a chance to ask. So we'll start right there. Oh, okay. Jocelyn's going off board, but that's okay.
The little appetizer tray had this little orange, maybe salmon type cheese. Who brought the appetizer?
The charcuterie board?
Charcuterie board.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's this little orange thing right here. So what is that? It's very good. It's like
Is it
feels like
Is it-
salmon. Do you want
Is it like a spread?
This might be a better question to ask off the stage, or okay, we're doing this now.
Oh, it's in Duya.
That is a sobrasada.
That's Super 7.
Sobrasada is a salumi spread. So it's got a brother in Duya that is far more popular. That's going to have some heat from Calabrian chilies in it. Sobrasada is a much more mild, spreadable salami.
There seems like a little seafood in there. Is there any?
There should not be.
Should not. Well, it's very good.
Well, thank
whatever it was.
That is from Tony and Contro from Lincoln. That does all the charcuterie at Mercado.
Certified Piedmontese, yeah.
Casa Bovina.
Extremely talented
Bad
individual.
Best in the country.
Incredible.
I think we had another question here.
I buy dried pasta, and sometimes it's the bronze cut, but I don't really understand what that means. You've talked about it a little bit, but I really don't understand it. So could you explain?
So when you make pasta, there's an end piece which actually dough comes through, gets extruded. So most traditionally, material used to make the die is the bronze, which is very rustic and soft metal. So that allows when pasta gets, the extruded pasta is very dry. It's almost like a sand. So it comes out with a lot of pressure out of the extruder. So, and browns being soft and kind of rustically cut, it allows noodles to come out with little micro ridges. So it's not smooth surface. So when you cook that pasta, you have better ability to grab and grasp the sauce and hold the sauce, cling to the pasta much better. Rather, if surface is completely smooth, that sauce just kind of falls off the pasta. But if it's properly extruded, pasta is much better ability to hold the sauce. So it's almost crucial. You're welcome.
I like a good arrabbiata sauce. Any of you make it?
Yeah.
All of it?
Not on the menu, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying it's not currently on the menu.
Yeah. That's a spicy pasta. Yeah, which we do love making it, but again, you're getting into that spicy field where people get really tricky about eating spicy pasta. So in a lot of cases, we have them option to add Calabrian chilies to our tomato and a guanciale sauce, and they can make it their own like level of heat or spicy. But yeah, it's one of the classics for sure.
Hello.
Hi.
What's the biggest mistake you've made, whether it be in business or in pasta, and what'd you learn?
Coming in with a heavy hitter.
Yeah. Man.
Didn't see that one coming.
I mean, I could think of a time that, so I was talking earlier about salted water and the water reducing and reducing and reducing. So I had to I was working in, this is almost 25 years ago, aging myself, but I was working in Tuscany, and the lowest guy in the totem pole had to make family meals, so I had to make dinner for everybody every day. And I'm the 20-year-old American kid with a bunch of Italians, and I barely speak Italian, and I didn't change the pasta water between lunch and dinner. And all these Italian, they just spit it out in front of me, and they're just like, what is this? And that was a lesson, I guess. Don't cook and has to be seasoned, but not too seasoned.
I don't know. There's a lot of mistakes. One of them, not serving pizza, I guess. But most repeating mistakes we have still is our carbonara dish, which is so challenging, so hard to make. It's spaghetti noodles made with guanciale and guanciale fat and egg yolks and butter and cheese. So that being said, it's all fat. And that's so hard to control consistency, not having raw eggs or overcooking it and scrambling it. So that's definitely one of the biggest challenges from day one and still is for our daily service and daily routine making those pastas. Because I think if you can master that, you're good to go to make anything else, because you have to control your heat, you have to control your fat, you have to be able to do what pasta do and let it shine. And with each pasta we serve, that needs to happen, because you cannot make it in a big batches. You cannot prepare sauce in advance. So, yeah, those guys agree probably. Yeah.
This is the crew at Avoli over here.
Yeah.
They do God's work. All right, John, do you have your lowest moment in life picked out yet?
No, I think for me it would be kind of like riding, Dario's back on what he said earlier about just overdoing pastas. Everybody likes to add too much stuff to it, especially when you're, a young cooker just getting into Italian food for the first time. It's so easy to know all these flavor combinations and dishes that you've done in the past and try to relay that into a pasta. And when you look at all the classic pastas that have stood the test of time, most of them are very, very few ingredients.
Yeah, keep it simple.
I think we got a question back there. Oh, hand up there?
Thanks, guys. I think everyone's really enjoyed it. being a nearly lifelong Omaha resident and eating a lot over the last 7 decades, the restaurant scene in Omaha has certainly evolved. Some of you old enough to know, Spaghetti Works was the place to go for pasta at one time. How much do you think the restaurant scene has evolved in comparison to other large markets in the U.S. at this point?
Wow.
Well, should I go?
Please.
Well, do you have Spaghetti Works here tonight? No.
Nice.
There's a reason. Yeah.
Their head chef was my fourth guest, but he got cut.
Yeah. Kitchen manager, please.
Yeah.
Well, I gauge Omaha's improvement when I moved to Omaha from New York after September 11th. My biggest issue was I couldn't really find fresh mozzarella at that time. And for me, able to go out and buy fresh mozzarella, I'm like, okay, we came a long way. But I mean, it's day and night past, I don't know, 15, 20 years that I remember, and all these young chefs coming and doing their thing and actually being supported, because changing pasta game is dangerous business. I mean, everybody eats pasta. Everybody has grandma somewhere who makes best ravioli, and all of a sudden we show up and try to do it our way. I had my experience with Dario's for almost 20 years, and which was very exciting and challenging, serving certain things. But if you just stand behind your product, do it consistently, and make sure that you have clear vision moving forward, there's always somebody who's going to support you. When we opened Avoli 13 years ago, I knew we are not going to please every pasta or Italian food eater in Omaha. That was off the table right away. If you have this many customers eating pasta every night in Omaha, I'm going to please just this many. But that's fine, because they're going to be appreciating what we do, they're going to be loyal, and eventually we just grow from there. And I think that's what happened. Because we really stuck with it, and we didn't mess with our menu too much. We didn't change too much. We thought there's a little bit corner of the market for operations like that too. Because we don't have to, get every person who is craving Italian food to our restaurant, because they won't be happy. So
Piggybacking on Dario, I mean, I think post 2007, the United States has become, or the world, it's become a global world. So, Spaghetti Works at one time in 1980 or whatever was, probably it was amazing, right? Maybe, I don't know. Point number one. Point number two, relative to the size, to the population of our fair city, call it Greater Omaha, 800,000. We have the largest Asian market between Chicago and Denver. And you can get and that place they have Peking, I love that place. We have, and this is off subject from pasta, we have arguably, the best sushi I've ever had in the United States, period. I've been to these places where it's amazing. Now, I think Yoshitomo is better than any place I've been in on either coast. And that goes back to how you can get product, really amazing product anywhere in the world, as long as you're not in, the Amazon or something. If you can get FedEx to you, you can get the product. And then I think social media, lots of bad things, but lots of good things too, including information of what is out there, in the world for everybody. It's it used to be you had to go to Rome to carbonara. You had to go to Rome to have carbonara, or et cetera, et cetera. Now folks have learned about it that have never left the country. John, for example, that. And it's just as good at Via Farina, perhaps, than you're going to have in Rome. So I think due to the social media and the global, what the world has become, I think it's amazing what our fair city has done.
agree.
And I think on that note, I think a lot of times we talk about the quality of the restaurants in town, and not often enough do we talk about the people that kind of were the trailblazers that got us to where we're at. These two are certainly in that category.
He doesn't mean me, just to clarify. These two.
Dan is not hurting it at all. Like Dan's doing a great job of being an advocate for what we do. I like to look at what Nick has done for pizza specifically. You know, we're a town that grew up on the La Casas and Big Fred's and Mama's, and everybody has their own favorite pizza place. But without Nick, I'm not even gonna say people like Nick. Without Nick, our pizza game isn't where it's at in this town.
That's kind.
That's a fact.
Thanks, dude.
For these guys, like Dario said, to find something that you love to do and stick with it. Like, these are the guys that have gotten us to this point and have given us an opportunity to keep chefs around, to keep developing and develop the restaurant business here in town, as opposed to 10, 15, 20 years ago when everybody would get a couple of years under their belt and it was off to Chicago, off to New York, off to Europe, off to literally anywhere except here. So thank you guys on that.
Oh, well, thank you, man.
Oh, that's awesome. You say you had to go somewhere else.
You had to.
There was no place else. I mean, unless you just wanted to, not. And that's totally great. But like, in order to learn and evolve as a cook, you had to go to those places that you mentioned. But now, you don't have to.
Right.
I think that's a beautiful note to end the night on. I want to make sure that I'm respecting everyone's time. We got started a little bit late and everything, but I cannot thank you guys enough for coming out and being on the podcast tonight. This was just a fantastic experience. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great.
Thanks for having us, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, guys.